We're back out here in the garage with special guest Garage Kitty. It's way past when I expected to be back out here working on stuff. Unfortunately, we lost a key member of the clan this week. Yeah, kind of sucks to talk about, but our oldest dog, Butch, ended up passing away. We had to get him put down. He had some health issues that were not conducive to him being able to live his best life moving forward. So we've had to deal with that, not only emotionally, but physically. And you know, have to deal with all the grieving and fun that comes with that, which is not fun at all. So to anybody out there that's ever had to deal with that, I've dealt with it, but not with a dog that I've owned. It's been more like childhood dogs or dogs that I've known. And it really sucks when it's a dog that's your own. So yeah, but regardless, enough rambling. Just know if anybody ever has any dogs or any animals that, you know, that don't end up making it through or they have issues with or pass away, I understand. But regardless, let's make this a happy channel. So I think when last we talked, the next step we were gonna do was figure out the wheels. Here's the wheels, at least the 3 that are in the worst shape. As you can see, there's a lot of rust and pitting on the back. There's some in here, which this doesn't really matter because the bead doesn't seat on this. It's just a tube. And then some rust on the front, right there. So what I think I'm gonna do is there's 3 of these. One of them's gonna be a spare, which I think, I'm trying to remember which one was actually the spare. It was probably that guy, because it seemed a little bit worse for the wear than the 2 of them. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna come in here with a wire brush on these guys. Just a regular, well, yeah, let's see. A regular old stiff wire brush like this guy, and just attack them, get as much loose stuff off as I can, and then probably hit them with one of these and one of these to help get any other smaller rust off. I want to get the big rust and dirt off of them before I take them outside to pressure wash them, which I will do probably here on Saturday. As you can see, it's dark now. I really don't feel like pressure washing in the dark. Now, on the other end of the spectrum, we'll walk over here into the dark. By the way, if anybody wants to see a video of me running this snowblower, give me a shout. I actually had to run this the other day. Well, I didn't have to. I chose to run it because we had a few inches of snow and I thought it would be fun to get it out and get some fuel through it and let it get up to operating temp and stuff. It's fun as heck. Like, this thing is just a death trap, and it harkens back to a time when safety was basically non-existent. So if you ever want to see any videos on that, give me a shout because I'd be glad to do it. But regardless, I'm getting off topic. These are the wheels that I bought off of eBay. And the nice thing about these is they are in excellent condition. As you can see, they're kind of like a brownish, primerish color, but they're really not bad. There's no rust on them at all. But what I think I'm gonna do with these guys is, oh, I did have it, but I probably threw it over there. So I'm just gonna take some 120 grit and just scuff them up. Just get every surface as scuffed up as possible to get it so that it's ready for paint, because obviously we can probably just scuff it down, pressure wash it, and then clean it with some brake clean or something, and then be ready to paint it. And then I'm going to attack them with whatever means I see fit. Like I said, those wire brush and drill brushes, and then these just sandpaper. I'll probably hit those with sandpaper too. And yeah, they'll be ready to go for Saturday. The other thing too is, if we have enough time tonight, depending on how hard this goes, I want to pull these brake drums off, label them, and hit them with the same wire brush treatment. Maybe hit them with some brake clean and then get those painted so that they're sitting ready to go. I'll have to mark them so I know which ones go where, because a lot of the shoes are adjusted to where they're supposed to be, especially on the back ones. I don't need to replace the shoes because they're mint. Front passenger side is really bad, so I'll probably just do both of them while I'm up there. But that way I know which one goes where, so I don't really have to adjust things too crazily. I'll show you this other wheel too, so you can see how mint it is. Yeah, I mean, look at that in the light. Like, I found these and they weren't super cheap, but I needed wheels and they were literally the only ones I could find on the internet that matched the same bolt pattern, had the same pieces on them for what do you call them, hubcaps. So yeah, it's a big win. So now we got 5 wheels, enough for 1 spare. So like I said, I'll get to working on these. I'm not gonna film any of that. I'm just gonna do it on my own, and then I'll bring you back in once they're done to show you how cleaned up and nice they are. All right, so we took the time, put the sweat equity into it. I got all those wheels sanded and, well, actually oh, hi, kitty. The ones that were, you know, already on there, the one I found in the trunk, I wire brushed, then used like a wire wheel and a drill, then sanded them, and then the ones that I had bought that were just painted, I sanded them down just to try to get as much dirt off them as possible. One cool thing about the ones that I pulled, or that I had bought that I just had to sand, they came with these awesome tags that I'd never noticed before. Edwards Motor Company, Dodge and Plymouth Parts Wholesale and Retail, West Wisconsin Avenue at number 36th Street, Milwaukee 1, Wisconsin, box 503, Arnold Shower Garage in Westfield, Wisconsin. So I'm actually gonna store those. I think I had this other box sitting over here with the Thompson products, the one that I got the ball joints from. So that was a pretty cool thing to discover. That actually went a little bit smoother than I anticipated. Not that sanding and doing stuff isn't super smooth. It generally is not that bad. It's just, you know, the work you got to put into it. So I think now I'm going to pull the brake drums off. The front ones are, oh, hello, you're bumping into me. Sorry, she's behind me on the tire, bumping into me, rubbing against me. Oh, I know. So all you have to do is pull the dust cap off these guys, and then pull the castle nut off, and then it basically comes off. It's not really that bad. That's just the front ones. The rear ones, they don't have a castle nut. They don't have a grease cap, whatever you call it, cap on the end of it. They just have the castle nut there, and you just pull that off. And you have to, I think I said this before in a video, you have to buy a special tool to pull the... Hold on. Let me understand how to speak English real quick. You have to buy a special tool, which is a 3-jaw puller that you have to beat the ever-living guts out to get these off, because there's a tapered... the taper on the drum is the opposite of the taper on the hub. So you have to use that to kind of break it, and it's a pain in the rear, especially when they haven't been off in a while. So, yeah, they all should come off half decently. So I'm going to pull all these off, and then I'll bring you back once they're all off of there. All right, so we're back. I ended up getting all the drums off. As you can see, they're all resting right here. I'm trying to keep them separated. Also, I marked on the back of them with a piece of tape. So this is the passenger front. This is the passenger rear. Driver's rear, driver front, and then I'll move the lug nuts since they're side specific to their, you know, intended location, since I want to paint them as well. But as you can see, one thing to do, I guess, when you're planning something like this is to just keep stuff organized. Keep things labeled. Like I said, labeling those drums helps me identify which one goes where before I clean them and after I clean them, because they'll all probably look the same after paint. I have towels set down in the shop denoting which nuts go where on the rears, and then on the front, which bearings go where on the front. Now we're gonna clean all these bearings up. We're gonna swap new wheel seals in there and stuff, so it's not that big of a deal. But like I said, a little organization goes a long way when you're doing this stuff, so you can remember where stuff goes. So, yeah, it's funny too, because I was saying about how that tapered seal, it was a bear whenever I had to take those off. I'll tell you what, it's even a bear when you barely tighten that nut down and have to take them off again. I actually had to use the puller again, not as hard as I did previously, but a good amount to get that off of there. I was actually quite impressed. Even friggin' smashed my finger, which you really can't tell, but that was great. So yeah, we'll use the same technique to clean these up. We're just gonna use a wire brush, you know, a nice heavy wire brush, and then this wire brush on a drill, and that'll hopefully get everything off well enough to paint. And like, you know, I don't really care a whole lot about these because they're going to be hidden under the wheel, but I also kind of want to preserve them. Like this guy right here is covered in axle oil, you know, gear oil is the right term I'm looking for. I'm going to try to get most of that off. At the end of the day, I don't really care. I mean, I'm going to clean it with a little bit of brake clean too, so it might take most of it off after I scrape most of it off, but I really don't care. I just want them to be like somewhat blackish, so it looks like, you know, we actually took our time to restore this unit. So I'll bring you guys back once I do that. Well, I kind of forgot to film a little bit. You know, sometimes you just get into a groove and you forget what you're doing, and that's kind of what happened here. And I realized when I was halfway through painting these that I never showed the result after I sanded them and stuff. So yeah, here they are. Said just hit them with a wire brush. Didn't have to hit them with the wire brush on the drill or anything. They kind of came out half decent and I didn't really care that much to make them super perfect. But yeah, just hit them with some rust converter paint, clean them with some brake clean before I did that. That way they're looking nice and spick and span. All that rust is encapsulated and converted. So that's about all we're getting into tonight. Like I said, probably sometime here, I don't know when, I don't even remember what day it is, but sometime here we'll get these back in their select areas, get the lug nuts back on them so they look decent. And then next up, we'll pressure wash those wheels that are underneath there, just curing and baking right now, and start splashing some paint on them to hopefully get wheels and tires mounted to them. That's kind of the hope for this video, is to get that all figured out and ready to go so that you can kind of see the transformation of not only these, but the wheels. So yeah, hopefully, well, it'll probably be a few days. I don't know, like I said, I don't remember what day it is, but this weekend I probably have some free time to do that. So we'll get those pressure washed and we'll bring you back. It'll be probably a couple days for me, but for you guys, it'll seem like it's just a second. So yeah, have a good night. We're back here at Trucks, Trails, and Tails headquarters, HQ. The garage with a stiff cocktail on Christmas Eve. We had a, I guess, a mini vacation, you would call it. We went up to Uncle Dave's and did some, well, running with some dogs, shot a couple pheasants. I'm a terrible shot. Can shoot quails better than I can shoot pheasants, which makes no sense at all. So that's probably not good for them, but good for me. I acquired this awesome old Aladdin Temprite 10 kerosene heater from Uncle Dave, which is just a cool piece of history. I think he said this thing's like 40 years old. He used to use it to heat parts of his house and like his shed where he processed deer and stuff like that. But it's pretty trick. It's got this little dial. It's just on off. It's got an emergency off and then a push igniter, which takes 2 double D batteries, whatever the big circular ones are in the back, but I don't have them, so I just light it like this. But this thing absolutely throws the heat. So he literally pulled it out. He said he hasn't fired up in like 4 years. Said it might need a little work to it, but we literally fired the wick and it went right off. You know, it probably needs a new wick. We'll test it here. So it's on off right now. We set this old girl to ignite. We're gonna light a match. All right, so that's lit. You lift that up, light that wick there. See that? It just starts doing its thing. It's a little spicy right now because it has a lot of kerosene in there, but yeah, if you kind of like tilt it up and let the flames kind of go hog wild, it loves it. It smokes like a million frickin' banshees. You can see it's doing its best to get all accommodated. Like I said, definitely needs a new wick. Luckily, you can still buy them for units like this, but yeah, that's perfect for in the shop right here. And he just gave it to me, which I thought was incredibly generous because he didn't need it anymore. So that fits perfectly into what we're doing today is we're gonna paint some wheels. So let's recap here. I didn't film any of the stuff that I did with this, but I think the last time where we left off, we sanded them, got a bunch of stuff off of them, then I pressure washed these. For these few that, you know, the ones that came with it that had some rust on it, I just went through in spots where it was heavily rusted and sprayed it with some, you know, regular rust converter. I'm gonna lay down some more mask and then we'll set these wheels up and then we'll get our first coat on these and I'll show you a little more details of how I do that. So we're back out here. As you can see, I masked off a decent-ish area. It really doesn't matter. Overspray gets everywhere. You can see it's already gotten in other places anyway. So, and before anybody asks, no, I have no idea what I'm doing with painting things. I just do it. You know, I think mechanical adhesion is better than getting things clean. Pressure wash, so they had water on them. I don't know if there was anything in that pressure washer, like soap or anything. I did have, what's that stuff, like the pump saver stuff in it. That probably got on it. Honestly, I really don't care. I'm not a painter. I'm never going to be a painter. These things are never going to be perfect. I mean, if you're taking advice from me, you're just hoping it's good enough because this is what we're working with. But as you can see, I mean, maybe the light's not super good, but I did the same exact thing on these wheels, and these wheels were junk, and I didn't prep them all that well at all, and they turned out half decent. Consequently, we're using the same paint on these guys, so they'll look like this when they come out. But anyways, I got everything masked off as best as I could. Like I said, I really don't care. This garage floor is going to probably get sanded at some point anyway. all the wheels are laid out. I'm just gonna come in here and just sort of look at them, see if there's anything that looks off, wipe them down with a rag. Just get any, you know, big junk out of them. Obviously, there's gonna be some dirt in them. Is that good? No. Do I really care? Also no. We're not professionals, nor are we gonna make sure that these are going on something that's gonna be perfect. So it's just gonna be good enough. I made sure I ordered plenty of paint, enough definitely to do 5 wheels. So, I don't know which one of these is new or isn't new. But anyways, I'm gonna shake these up. So generally my first coat is, you know, a very thin coat. Then I'll go with a thicker second coat, and then I'll go with an even thicker third coat. And then that's generally perfect for me. Now, what I like to do when I'm painting wheels like this is start at the back first, because any overspray and stuff you can correct on the front, which the front is the stuff that's visible. Honestly, you could just paint the front, or I guess the outside of the wheels that you're seeing visibly, and you wouldn't have to worry about the back. I like to do it all just because if I'm gonna do it once, I may as well do it correctly. As you can see, it's ideal painting weather in here because I can see my breath. But, so yeah, I start at the back and just go around and paint everything I can reach, which includes the sides and here, and then turn it around, and then I'll do the other thing. But I'll do 2 to 3 coats on this side first, wait 24 hours or so, maybe a little longer. Like I said, tomorrow's Christmas, so the probably earliest we'll get to this is Friday. And like for a first coat, like honestly, something like that is honestly what you want. And as you can see, this can's pretty well screwed now anyway. It's just throwing big globs of paint around, but that's fine. Like that. That's probably perfect for a first coat. And then we'll just come into here and spritz a lot of this. But yeah, something like that is perfect. Nothing too heavy, nothing too light. Oh, and we just dropped it, so that's perfect. But it's fine, like I said. There's no real science to this. Don't worry about that big spot. So here's a good thing. I'm probably gonna actually take this off because I think it's all getting caught on there. Looks like it's getting caught on there. So I got a big drop there. That's a big issue, right? How do we fix that? Just wipe it off. Look at that. That sucks because we got, you know, a big bare spot there. But you know what you can do? You can just come in, just cover that up. We'll do more coats anyway, so it really doesn't matter. So I'm gonna go around and hit everything, and I'll bring you guys back in after the first coat on everything. All right, so as you can see, we got our first coat down, and it's a little thicker in spots than I wanted it to be. I probably see some fisheye in that guy right there, but you know, just enough to get a little base on it. You don't have to completely cover it on the first coat. Just enough to make it look half decent. Even if there's little spots on it that aren't good, it's fine. You can course correct that here shortly whenever you put a thick coat on there. So I generally let this stuff on for like, if I'm doing 5 wheels, I generally just keep continuing with it until I'm done. So like, you know, it probably takes 5-10 minutes to spray these wheels. Maybe 5, and then I just go back and start on this guy and keep putting new and new coats on. So the longer you wait, the more it's going to settle and the more you may get issues with it. So I'm going to put a second coat on. I'll bring you guys back in to show you what that second coat looks like. And then we'll throw a third coat on and probably be done with it. Maybe. We'll see how the second coat goes. All right, so my hands are covered in paint, which is awesome. As you can see, the second coat's turned out really well. You give it a nice thicker coat on this time, so you know you can start filling in more of the areas that are an issue. I thought I'd get away with doing just 2 coats on this, but it looks like I need to do another coat on all these. So, unfortunately, your feet start sticking to this because of the spray paint, and if I wasn't so much an idiot, I would have a bigger space in here where I could actually lay stuff out and paint it and get angles appropriately, but I don't do that because I'm dumb, and I like having projects and all that stuff. So, yeah, just spray a thicker coat on. The key is to just spray a thick coat and try not to get any rungs. That's what I've learned. It's kind of hard to do, but once you've done it once or twice, you get a pretty good feel for it. So we're going to throw a third coat on this, and that'll be it. We'll bring you in afterwards. Well, unfortunately, some of my mask job came up, because once you start spraying this stuff, you have to step all around the paper where the paint's sticking, you know. You start sticking to it with your feet and all that stuff, so it becomes kind of an obstacle course, but 3 coats of paint, I think, is just right. These look pretty wet right now. Look like we got pretty full coverage. So we'll let these dry for, well, we probably won't go back to these. Tomorrow's Christmas, so probably Friday. We'll peel these off of here and flip them over and paint the other side. So yeah, that's kind of the way to do it. You just prep them enough to your liking, do one light coat, and if it's, you know, going from a light to a dark or a dark to a light, do 3 coats. Sometimes you get away with 2. I like to do 3 just to have full coverage, and we'll see how these turn out. So we'll pop back in a day or 2 here and see what the progress is. Merry Christmas, everybody. All right, well, it's the day after Christmas now. As you can see, I've already come out here and briefly looked at these. They're, you know, dry to the touch. If I flip them over on this paper, they may stick, but for right now, it's pretty decent. As you can see, they're not perfect, and I never really expect them to be. Like, there's a little schmutz there, which is, well, maybe you can't see it. It's a little ding in that one. There's some dirt in there, which is fine. I really don't care. Like I said, I don't want to be perfect, but here's where the real magic comes in. So, if you can see on these, I said to do the back first, which, like I said, I really don't care about the back. The back's not a big deal. You can see I got enough paint in here because this was the side that was down, this side wasn't, but we'll get that when we paint the other side. But flipping it over, pardon me, you can see this one's really good. There's no paint drips, nothing. This is a perfect, ideal base to paint this side and all around the bottom of there. So, flipping this guy over, this guy is really good as well. You can see that there's a couple of like areas that wanted to drip down in these corners, but it's nothing that I'm overly concerned about. You're not really gonna notice it. Now on this guy had a drip, as you can see right there, and a little coming out of there. I don't mind this stuff in the corners, but this stuff right here is no bueno. So, flipping this guy over, this one's the same. He has some big drips right there. And this guy's perfect. So 2 out of the 5 we did had some drips on it. And that's not bad. I'm okay with that. I kind of expected there'd be some. But this is why it's key to do the back first if you're painting both sides of your wheels. If you're really painting the front, it really doesn't matter if you get drips on the back side. Who really cares? No one's ever gonna see it. But for this guy, now I can go in there with a razor blade, sandpaper, brake clean, and clean all that junk off, so that way whenever I do the front, we have a nice, you know, relatively even coat of paint on there. Like I said, I'm not a professional painter. I really don't care about paint. I just like to make things look better than they did, and that's what this is all about. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna come in here with a razor blade first, clean that off, sand it as much as I can to get it relatively flat, and then probably use a shop rag with some brake cleaner and just get that as clean as possible and then ready for the next coat of paint. As promised, I came in here and as you can see, I kind of cleaned up right there. There's a little left over, but nothing too crazy. And then this guy cleaned up even better. But yeah, so I'm not gonna paint these yet because I actually wanna do some work on this today and I don't wanna smoke myself out of here. These are clips. Very expensive clips. These things are hard to find. I think they're like, oh, I don't remember what the brand is. It's a 1745 is the part number. These are what mounts into these guys and allows you to install the trim. So we're probably gonna require some cleaning because, as you can see, this guy's got some gunk in it, which isn't a big deal, but I'd much rather clean that up before we throw something in there. This guy's a lot better because it's been sitting out for a while, and this guy was too, but we'll run over that with a rag and some brake clean or something just to get it nice and clean. I actually did one of these just without filming it, just to make sure it went well. As you can see, I got it installed on there. It looks pretty good, but as you can see, it goes on there pretty well and looks pretty good. And it took very minimal effort. So I had a little issue trying to figure out how to install these. The tolerances of these are quite tight. But what I found out was, obviously you can see the witness marks on there of where the original clips were. But if I take a pair of needle nose pliers and just put them like right where that transition happens, tuck it in there so that it's, you know, flush with the bottom, and then twist it, it sort of springs itself into place and, you know, fits in there real nice. So then what you just do is you come over here, This is clearly the right piece because you see it's angled back here. You put it into place and then give one side a good smack, give the other side a good smack, and there it is. No big deal. Installed. So I'm gonna get the clips installed in this guy and then install it on there, and we'll bring you back when I'm doing that. All right, we're back now. I verified too that I have it going the right way, because it kind of looks symmetrical, but you could also flip it around. But if you've looked where the rust from the clips were, you could see that it would line up perfectly. So yeah, it's ready to go on, so let's throw on. Also, I don't know if there's a right or wrong way to install this little spring mechanism in these guys. I just put it at the top because I figured that's less chance of the weakest part rusting out, since water won't pull at the top, it'll pull at the bottom. Does it make any sense? No, but did I do it that way? You bet, because I really don't care. So there we go, they all line up. I think I'm gonna work from the middle out. Maybe not. There it is, all installed, ready to go. That took some pretty good wax, but now let's take a step back to admire this as far back as we can get. Oh yeah, that looks so much better having all the trim on it. I like that a lot. Obviously we're missing the trim for the step down here, but I never intended to put that back on, but yeah, that really rounds out this car. And then obviously on the other side, I have the other piece installed, so all the trim's on over there. Like I said, it's unfortunate because there's parts here where like other stuff needs installed and other parts of trim have fasteners that are rusted out, but I figure we'll cross that bridge when we get there on them. Hopefully we won't lose them. If I do start to see something coming off, you know, pretty severely, I will obviously remove it and then go to find the correct fastener for it. But for right now, that looks awesome. You know, it's the little touches that make these things great. And unfortunately, those clips aren't cheap. Like I said there, I don't even think the company makes them anymore. So that's kind of sad. So you're only finding new old stock stuff that people had sitting around. But I think I ended up paying total for all of them. It was like $50 with shipping, which sucks, but also what's it worth to you, right? And unfortunately with a car like this, it's this age that a lot of people don't make parts for. What's it worth to you to have a car that has all the trim on it? For me, I'm over the moon, because although it's $50, it took me what, 10 minutes and a little bit of elbow grease, and it makes this car just look a million times better. So are those clips worth 50 bucks? Hell no. But does it make things worthwhile? Yes. It rounds out the whole look of this car. So, all right. Another thing I'm going to delve into is, I don't know if this is included in the same video or a different video. People might be yelling at me for it, and that's fine. No one's ever commented because, frankly, only really our family and probably a small handful of you watch these videos, so it really doesn't matter. Anyways, I was watching A Christmas Story yesterday, and they have like a 37 Oldsmobile in that movie, which looks very similar to this, other than it's old. It's an Olds, it has lights here and all that other stuff, but it's a 4-door sedan, suicide doors, all that other stuff. You know, that's the very prominent scene where Ralphie gets the lug nuts knocked out of his hand and goes, "Oh, fudge," but he doesn't say fudge. On that video, though, it has one of these clip-on mirrors on the door. And I believe in the last video I was complaining, saying, well, it's dumb. Why would you have I'm sorry. Why would you have a driver's side mirror and a passenger side mirror if you can't see out of the passenger side? Well, as it turns out, in that movie, he does not have a passenger side mirror. He just has a driver's side. And I kind of did a little research last night to correct myself, and most of them didn't have passenger side mirrors. Or all of them. I've never seen one with a passenger side mirror on it, because for obvious reasons, you can't see out of it. I don't want to be driving around looking like an idiot, especially with, you know, completely restored car like this with 2 separate taillight bezel colors and all that stuff. So yeah, we're gonna come in here, and I don't even remember what size this was. We're gonna guess 1/8 maybe? Am I right? I think so. And we're just gonna remove this, and then we're just gonna store this away for a later date when we may need it. If that one on the driver's side falls off, we have an extra. There we go. Oh, don't drop the gasket, Seth. There we go. Yeah. All right, didn't even bugger this anything up here. So yeah, now we're period correct, whatever you want to call that. And it makes it look a lot better. So what else are we gonna get into? Well, I was driving along in the Sentra the other day to work, because that is currently the elite mode of transportation, because all we drive is junk here, and with Sam not having a job, that thing gets, I don't know, 35, 40 miles to the gallon, which is awesome. I was like, man, it's been a while since I've done an oil change on this thing. And so then I went and looked, and yeah, it was close to like 7,000 miles, because apparently the computer in the car somehow reset itself. So you can't rely on that to give you accurate information at all. I got oil and a filter, but I also bought Champion J8C spark plugs for this, because, well, you can't find the Autolite A7s or whatever. I mean, you can, but apparently they had black bases on them, and people resto these cars and want concours quality restorations. These are the other substitute for those, and they're readily available. They're like $1 something each. All right, I kind of realized as I was recording this, there may be people that have never gapped a spark plug in their life. It'd been a few years in my life since I had ever done one, probably in my mid-20s or so. But anyways, generally what happens is they ship these from the factory with a pre-spec gap. So you can pick up one of these spark plug, gap checkers at any major auto parts store. You probably get them on the internet for really cheap too. But these specific ones come with a 30,000s gap. So you see on here, there's 20,000s, 30,000s, all the way up to 100,000s. And what that means for people that maybe don't do engineering stuff or understand what thousandths are is that's, 20 thousandths of an inch, so 0.020, and then all the way up to 100 thousandths, which is 0.1 of an inch, right? So what you do is you bring your gap tool in here, you run it along here until it starts to get tight, kind of like a feeler gauge. As you can see, that one is dead nuts on 30 thousandths. So we need to shorten this gap to the 25 thousandths. So what you do, you find a hard surface, you press down to close that gap. And maybe this is right, maybe this is wrong. I don't know. This is the way I've always done it. I've never had any issues. So now you can see, you can barely fit that on there. We're at like 21 thousandths of a gap. So there's two ways you can do this. I think the proper way is to use this little gap opener and just bend that tab up a little bit. And then you can, check it like that. Or you can always just slide it up this ramp to where you get to where you need to be, and that'll space it out appropriately. I'm pretty sure the first one is the more well-received method of doing this. I've done both. Does it probably decrease the tolerance on this spark plug checker? Yes. But that's okay. I mean, if you're off by a thousandth, I think I'm saying that right. It doesn't really matter. The car's not going to give a care either way. So if I put this on there, slide it all the way up, we'll go a little past, open up that gap a little bit. And then we'll put it back on there. Maybe we need to open it a little more. As you can see, it kind of stops at 25, 26, kind of right there. That's perfect. We'll call that good enough. So I already did all these guys. So let's go install these on the car and give ourselves proper brand new spark. All right, so we got our 13/16 inch socket, deep well, 1/2 inch wrench here. And yeah, we're getting ready to replace spark plugs. Now, one thing you're gonna wanna do, which I actually still have to do, is on these old flatheads, especially ones that have no cowl lacing or anything, you tend to get a lot of crap and gunk down in the little divot that goes down to the spark plug hole. That's not good, because once you take the spark plug out, all that stuff will go down into the cylinders and, start wreaking havoc down there. Now, generally, we'll probably go out a valve, like the exhaust valve? Yeah, maybe, but also you don't want to risk it getting caught up in the piston and destroying your piston wall. As you can see, those back ones are really crusty and rusty. So before we do any of this, I'm gonna go grab a shop vac, kind of scrape around there and clean all that stuff out of there so we don't end up dropping a bunch of stuff into our cylinders. And I'll bring you back once I do that. You can just get a screwdriver, a pick or something in there, loosen it all up, and then just take your plug wire off, stick your shop vac over the hole, and get all that out of there. So we're gonna do that right now. I'll bring you back whenever we're done with that. All right, we're back here. The pitter patter of the freezing rain on the rooftop makes a serene ambiance to a, day in the garage. Anyways, back to the task at hand. So one of these little 90-degree picks works great for this. You just kind of get it in there and work it around to get any loose stuff up. I've actually already done that, got all the crap out of here and shopped it out with the shop vac. Vacked it out with the shop vac, not shopped it out. That's a new term we can start. So anyways, now that we're back here, I guess since I showed you how to gap spark plugs, I'll show you how to install a spark plug, which isn't really super difficult. But people may have never done it. Gosh, I can't speak today. So I do them one at a time. These wires are probably bent enough that you can tell which wire goes back to which. And honestly, the way this loom works, if you get it wrong, you're an idiot because it shows you literally which one it goes to. But anyways, like I said, I do it one at a time. So take your wire off, put your ratchet on there. And like I said, this is a 13/16, so you just crack it loose. Oh, will it come out by hand, maybe? It will. I think I've sprayed these with stuff before. Oh, nope, that's pure gas in there. Great. So one thing you also want to be cognizant of is, I probably must have like flooded this before. That's probably why there's so much gas in there. This has a little washer right there, and it won't fall down into there, but you kind of want to have that back on there. As you can see, this guy comes with a washer already on it that doesn't really come off. But yeah, there's a lot of gas in those cylinders. It's probably because of me. Actually, what we can do, will it shoot anything out of there maybe? It won't. But yeah, that spark plug, if you can see, is mighty rich. And the strap is definitely a lot smaller than this guy is. Hopefully you can pick this up. I don't know if you can or not, but it was in need of a new set of plugs. Who knows how long these have been in there. So the way I like to install these, people say to put like anti-seize on them or other stuff to get them out. I never leave spark plugs in long enough to really make it matter. Especially on old junk, you kind of always got to change them at decent frequencies, especially with carburetors, because they're not as controlled as fuel injection. So, like I said, get your old spark plug out of there, make sure your washer's out, and then I like to start installing them by hand. Not cranking them on with a ratchet or anything, because you can cross thread it, and then you gotta take your head off, and that's not good. So, now that's in there, threaded it in hand tight as it could be. I bring this in here and just get it cinched down. You know, just not a whole lot of pressure on it. And then an 1/8 to 1/4 turn is really all you need on these. So, yeah, that's probably good. Yeah, you don't absolutely need to crank them down in there, just enough to get them to seat properly and so that you can get them out eventually. And there's a spark plug change. It's as simple as that. So I'm gonna drop you off the video here and get these all replaced and show you what it looks like afterwards. So we got all 6 spark plugs changed out. No real hiccups or anything, but remember I was telling you about, you know, how that's kind of recessed down in there and that gunk gets down into those spark plug holes? Well, remember, these 4 are covered by the hood mostly. Water can still get down in there, but coming through the middle of the hood's a lot less likely. The rear 2 is a lot more likely because water can come down through here and spill on the back of the head and get down to those. So check this out. I pulled these spark plugs over here. As you can see, they're all pretty rich. It's a good thing we got to these guys when we did, because look at the chunks out of this guy. This guy isn't as bad, but you can see it was like it was underwater on the Titanic. So on this car, there's an oil pressure gauge. Oh goodness, look how nice that is. Whew, beautiful. Right there is your oil pressure gauge. Obviously, it tells you oil pressure. So what's great about this car is they run a hard line right here, and then they use a soft line to mate those two. Unfortunately, when I was working on this thing, the soft line that connects these two lines together broke on me. It was probably however many years old. It just wasn't good. So anyways, when I broke it, this thing obviously had oil pressure because it was spewing stuff all out that bottom line. Now, I just put a chunk of heater hose, a bolt, and clamps on there to prevent oil from coming out of that. But now I have the actual heater line, or not heater line, oil pressure line to make that work. The only downside is on here, as you can see, we have the leftover remnants of the line, where it feeds into the hard line. And I don't know if the fittings on the hard line spin or not, but what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take that piece off right there, bend that line back to where it hopefully meshes up with that half decently, and try to get all that old fittings for the line loose and everything so we can get those hard line fittings spinning and be able to install our new line. So wish me luck, because sometimes these don't go super well. These lines don't look super corroded, so that's good. Like, it's kind of the similar thing on brake lines. When you work on brake lines that are really rusted, usually you use a little bit of heat and a little bit of PB Blaster and just slowly work it back and forth to break loose the crud and corrosion that's holding that fitting up. But I don't think I'll have too much trouble on this, but I'm gonna work on it here and bring you back once we get those all free and hopefully don't have any issues. So we're back. As you can see, I got these old pieces off. Here's the new hose. Fittings look to be the same. I actually did just put it in there to make sure it'll bridge the gap pretty decently. As you can see, maybe maybe is, probably can't see, but this guy right here-ish is the top line. The bottom line's right there. I kind of want to bend that line a little bit maybe, so it's not at so weird of an angle. And then in the spots where the fittings will sit, I'm gonna slap a little anti-seize on there, or maybe just grease, one of the two. Probably grease, because it's a lot less messy than anti-seize. All right, that took a little longer than I anticipated. Had to kind of contort my body a good bit of ways, but as you can see, if I can get this down in there, there's that new line installed right there. So now we should have a working oil pressure gauge and yeah, not have any more oil leaking all over the place. I don't know yet because I haven't started it, and I'm not gonna start it for a little while, but it's on there and that's done. Now I'm gonna take the rest of the time to paint my wheels because it's nice and warm in here. Here's what I'm gonna do. I noticed that when you're painting, obviously paint's sticky, especially when it's drying. My feet were sticking to it and it was ripping up my masking. So I'm gonna fix all that, put those pieces back in there, all that stuff. And then I'm gonna use a leaf blower and just blow the top gunk off of any of these wheels to try to make the paint look as good as possible. And then pick anything else out that I see in there. But I'm also going to, once I get the painting, I think I'm gonna rub some oil or something on my shoes. That way when I am walking around, I don't stick on the paper, and that way it makes it easier for me to get in there and paint these. First, we're gonna fix the masking because it's kind of horrible right now. Get those prepped and get it ready to go. So I'll bring you back once we do that. All right, well, we got everything prepped, ready to go. I'm not gonna film any of this because it's gonna be the same thing as last time. It's just gonna be me splashing a little paint on these. Like I said, previously, the same thing, just a light coat, for the first coat, and then just continue going until it's completely coated. Probably 3 coats. I'll probably just do that just because I did it on the rest of it. Yeah, I'm going to try to put some oil on my shoes to see if that helps me not get stuck to there and rip up all the masking and jeopardize this paint job. But I got a little fan going over there. I'm going to open up the windows here, turn the heater off, which is preheating the paint, which, yeah, no, that probably doesn't do anything, but I like to think it does. So I'll bring you back in once I have these completely painted and show you what the final result is. All right, so I ended up doing 2 coats along the side and 3 coats on top. And yeah, it's looking pretty good. I ended up having a lot more mess ups than I thought I would, but I think I masked them pretty well. Yeah, I like how these turned out. Like I said, it's never gonna be perfect. There's dirt everywhere. We have a cat. I'm not the cleanest person in the world, but they look good. Now that those are good to go, and we got a bunch of little small stuff done, I think probably tomorrow, if not this weekend, we're gonna start tackling this rear axle, because these axle seals are shot, and I wanna get that third member out, get a look at that, see what all we need to do to seal this rear end back up and get it going. So look for that on the next video. That's probably where we're gonna start. So yeah, we will see you then. Well, it's Sunday now because yesterday I ended up not working on this for some reason. I think it was just lazy and being off and stuff. But yeah, got the old propane stove going again. Sorry, it's not propane, it's kerosene. What am I talking about? But I can put it right there now and hopefully get some better heating in the shop because, well, it's at a more centralized location. Got all my masking cleaned up. The 4 wheels I'm using, I just set under there for now. Hopefully the car doesn't fall on them. If it does, oh well, that's the way things go. But they turned out really nice. I mean, just looking at those compared to the color of this car and all the variation, I think it's going to look super good, especially with the hubcaps and everything. So, yeah, that's going to be great. End of the last video, we said we were going to get into this rear axle. I had to do a little research on this because I really didn't know how exactly it worked. But anyways, I think I have a firm understanding now. So as you can see on these guys, these outer wheel seals have been leaking for quite some time. I mean, there's even active grease, well, allegedly active grease coming out of there. One positive though is the brake shoes on these, or brake shoes and wheel cylinders. No, at least just the brake shoes. I don't know about the wheel cylinders yet. But the brake shoes look fine, so I'm not putting new brake shoes on the rear. But I kind of want to service this rear axle because I don't know the last time this thing was properly serviced. I would imagine it was a long, long time ago. Actually, it doesn't even look like there's a wheel seal on this side. Yeah, that's why there's even a wheel seal on the side. Let's compare this to the other side. Maybe there, it doesn't, I don't know. Maybe there is. I can't really tell. They both look the same, but whatever. Anyways, so, like I said, shoes look fine on both of these. They're not perfect, but they'll do for now. So the way you work on these, apparently, is you got to remove your brake line from your brake shoe there, which these lines are going to break anyway, and I'm ordering new ones, so I'm just going to cut them because I really don't care. And then these little 5 nuts here are what hold your backing plate and all of this to the axle. And then, like I said, this little plate here has like an integral outer seal in it, which prevents grease and oil and stuff from slinging out onto your brake shoes. Obviously, those have failed on both of these, so we got them to replace them. Then you can pull that whole backing plate brake assembly off. And also my understanding is that underneath there is obviously inside is a bearing, a race, and then an inner seal, which I'm still kind of hazy on how that inner seal works. Some people say it completely blocks the flow of oil to the bearings, and then you grease the bearings, but then that wouldn't make sense as to why this seal has grease coming out of it unless they both failed. Maybe this seal is strictly to keep the grease in the bearing from getting on the shoes. I don't know. Either way, what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this backing plate, remove this outer seal. I got whole new plates and a seal for that anyways. And then apparently if you can use a puller or you can just use the brake drum itself. I've done this on like old Ford, 10 1/4 axles, is just use the brake puller as a slide, or the brake drum as a slide hammer and pull that axle shaft out. Cause the only thing that's holding it in is these 5 bolts here. Then when you do that, that pulls the bearing and I think the race out. And then from there, someone's going hard on a 2-stroke out there. And then from there, you can pull that inner seal out, which I don't have them because I'll be honest, when I ordered parts, I didn't really understand how this axle worked. But you can pull that inner seal out, and I think I might have a proper seal puller to do it. I don't know. We're going to find out. But when you can pull those axle shafts out, then and only then can you drop that third member. And I was going to try to skirt by all of that and just drain that differential there because, I mean, it has fluid in it, but it looks kind of sassy. That being said, there's no drain on those third members, so you have to basically pull the third member or pull a bolt off to drain it. And honestly, the pinion seal shot in that thing, I think, which I have one to replace it, but also the gasket looks like it's shot in it too. So we're just gonna completely pull the whole thing out and reseal everything and do it all right, because if I, just go all half caulked on this it's going to be bad and then I'm going to have to redo it anyway. So we're just going to go hard on it and do the whole entire thing and make it look great. So first we're going to start with one side. I think we'll start with this side. We're going to pull those 5 bolts off and that, you know, retains the hub there and go from there. So I'll bring you back once that's done. So we're back here now. As you can see, we got everything pulled off. I cleaned up around here and it looks like there's actually, it might be hard to see, but like, I don't know if there was a grease fitting in there or if that little hex guy right there is just a place to pull that out to grease your bearing. Doesn't really matter for now because we're gonna hopefully pull that all out, but yeah, a lot of dirt and stuff back there. Here's that seal. You can see there's just a pile of goopy old grease, or it looks like it's kind of a mix between grease and gear oil in that. So that's no bueno. The backing plate and all the brake stuff came off, which is actually pretty great design because you don't have to worry about taking all your brakes off to service this. I mean, you technically do. You'd have to remove your brake line, but you technically don't have to bleed your brakes after you do that unless, you know, fluid's dripping out. If you can just keep your brake from your, I guess, brake, whatever you call it. What am I thinking? I can't think about it. Your brake pedal from going down, if you put a piece of wood behind it or something so it doesn't, like, you know, move up and down, you technically wouldn't have to bleed your brakes unless a lot of fluid escaped. You could just keep topping it off until, you know, so the cylinder didn't go low, or the master cylinder and all the brake lines didn't go low. But anyways, I'm rambling. I got that off. That was actually pretty easy. Like a little shim or something up in here. I don't know what that's all about. Oh, well, it broke, so that doesn't matter. I don't know if that's supposed to be there or not. Whatever, it doesn't matter. But now we're gonna use the brake drum to pull this off. I think I'm gonna have to remove the key that's in it that makes this shaft taper. I could be wrong there. We're gonna try to not do that, but I'm gonna show you how I'm gonna do that here real quick. So I'm just gonna pull the paper towels that are out of it and slide it back on there and loosely put that nut on. All right, let's see if we can capture this beauty on camera here. So I didn't have to remove the key in this. I just loosely installed the drum and the spacer and the hub nut. So basically, what you do is you use this like a slide hammer. You just bloop, 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 give it a couple good tugs, and that axle shaft should come out. Probably spilling a bunch of gear oil and everything all over the place, but we'll cross that bridge when we get here. So this is how you do it. Huh? There we go. All right, so now we'll remove this nut, move this washer, put that back there, pull off the brake drum maybe. Oh, no fluid came out, that's great. There's your bearing, and there's your race. So those end up going in there, resting in that little spot. Doesn't even look like this thing has any fluid really on it. All right, well, there's your axle shaft. Nothing too crazy on there. I mean, a little bit of grease and such. It stinks like all get out, but that bearing looks decent. Obviously covered in grease and stuff. We'll get that all cleaned out. But yeah, there you go. That's pulling your axle shaft on one of these girls. There's that seal right there, which could probably come out. I think I should have enough of a reach to get in there and pull that out. Let's find out. Also, be very careful with this because each side here has shims. I'm guessing that's for your preload on there. Make sure, though, you don't lose those, because if you don't, then you're not going to have your proper preload, and you're going to have a bad time. So, yeah. Oh, I realize we can probably just scooch this little girl right there for now. There we go. So it's out of the way. Clean up all that gross grease. I'm actually going to keep these shims right there so that we know those go back right there. Whoop. It's not really liking it. Doesn't seem like there's anything behind it, so I just really don't want to mess up this seal surface right here. Oh, well, I broke that. All right, well, that's all for that right now. I'll bring it back, and I have a better method of getting that out. So I'm back. I was able to get that inner seal out. I have it right here, as you can see. I had to pretty much mangle it to get out because, as always, I don't have the right tools. But it's a 651678 or something like that. Whatever, doesn't matter. I think you can get them at Napa, which I'm gonna do because, you know, they can. I think Napa has a part number that crosses with them. At least what I've read on some forums. That could be completely wrong, but yeah. So it's out, as you can see. We got a spare, or we just got an empty axle tube there. One thing that's a bummer though, that I'm probably gonna have to take care of is watch this. Right inside where that oil seal is. If I put my finger in there. Yeah, oh, it just smells lovely too. There's a lot of that just caked in there. I don't know if it's from sitting or because it was never serviced or what, but I'm not a big fan of that. So what we're probably gonna do is after we get this whole thing taken care of, like I said, I'll probably move on to the other side and do this and not show it on camera. But yeah, I'm gonna pull that other side off. And then once we get that third member out, we'll probably take like a piece of rebar or a long tube and some rags and just go through there and, like, I don't know, maybe spray the rags and brake clean or something. And just try to get as much of that crap out of there as we possibly can. Honestly, it's probably because it's the older oils and they didn't have like any detergent or anything in them, so they sludged up. And obviously this thing's been sitting for a while, so. And it was probably never serviced because probably didn't really care. So, yeah, we'll try to get that out of there as much as we can. But let's continue with the task at hand. I found out that one of these tools works really well to get those wheel seals out. I think they make like, what would they call them? Slide hammers with attachments that hook on the inside of things. You use that and it probably wouldn't do as bad of a job, but that worked pretty well. It actually destroyed my actual seal puller, which was surprising. I didn't think that would happen, but it's fine. It is what it is. I'm not worried about it. They're pretty cheap, but yeah, I'm gonna go over there and do the other side and bring it back in when that's done. And yeah, we'll keep moving forward. All right, well, we're back. Oh, there's my light. I left it there. Look at past me thinking about me. This guy's out too. Again, a lot, maybe you can't see it, but there's a lot of dang sludge in there. So we're gonna have to clean that out. As you can see, I've already chipped away at a lot of gunk around here to try to get to the access to these bolts. There's a lot of them. So the way you gotta do this is you gotta remove these four drive shaft bolts on here that are gonna be probably a pain, I would imagine. So you gotta remove them. That separates the drive shaft from the third member. And then there's, I don't know, a dozen or so bolts that are around the third member here. So I gotta kind of scrape around because grease got all on them and they're just all gunked up and everything. So I'm gonna do that. Now looking at it, I don't know how the heck you replace that pinion seal because you almost have to take that flange off. So I'm assuming there's some sort of nut we gotta take off on the pinion. Pull that flange out, drop that new pinion seal in. I don't know. Like I said, I have no idea what I'm doing with this car. I'm used to mostly working on old Ford pickups, so this is completely new for me. So one thing though, when you're doing this is, as you can see, I have this car up on blocks of wood and stuff, so it's relatively safe, but anytime you're laying under a car, which I'm doing right now, not being safe, you kind of want to have a little extra protection. So I'm going to throw some extra jack stands under that rear axle and probably put the jack underneath the rear pumpkin there, just to have a little extra, you know, space in case something goes wrong. Always take extra care of what you're doing and make yourself extra safe, because the moment you don't is the moment you don't live to tell about it. And I kind of like life. So I'm gonna continue to do that. So quick update here. I got all the bolts out of there, out of the dip that is, the third member, whatever you want to call it. What I did was I took every, I mean, you're probably not gonna be able to see that. I took every bolt out of there but the top two and just cranked them enough to where they would, or back them off enough to where I could pull it out, and it popped right off. It wasn't that bad, so it's draining currently. I'm actually just gonna go in there and probably pull those top two bolts off and just pull the thing out, or not pull it out, but probably just drop it down into that tray, which reminds me, I can probably turn that, so that makes that easier. And I'll drop that down to that tray, pull it out of there, and yeah, we'll be ready to mess with it. I also kept the bolts organized here because the lower two bolts seem to be longer on both sides. Don't know why that is, but I'm trying to keep that all organized so I get them back in the same way. So yeah, I'll get back with you when I have that pulled out. Well, I'm gonna try to bring you in here quickly because the fluid is draining out of this old girl. Not super fast, but just fast enough that I think people need to see this. Oh, this is fun. Maybe you can see that, but that stuff is like honey. Here, let's see if my light will do better this way. I don't know, I think the lighting sucks. You better believe, if you believe me though, this stuff is like not even flowing out of here at all. Like, it's like grease. It's that old. There, maybe. That'll show you. Look at it. It's like not viscous at all. It's just kind of like, well, I'll get out of there eventually. And you can kind of see in the back, well, maybe you can't see on the camera. I can see in here, but the housing looks pretty dang good, honestly. Like, everything's pretty nice about it. But yeah. This fluid definitely is probably the original fluid, I would imagine, based on how hard it was to get the seals out and everything. As you can see, it's like perfectly metal up here, so you can tell this thing hasn't been running forever because no gear oil is getting splashed around. So I think the best course of action is to just let this old girl drain out overnight and not even mess with this guy. Now, and me being as dumb as I usually am, I said earlier about I don't know how the heck you change the pinion seal on this. There's clearly a castle nut with a cotter key right there, which is going to be super easy just to hammer off with an impact. Probably pull this cover off, slam a new pinion seal in it, and call it a day. I don't know why I was being so stupid with that, because that's literally the way Ford axles work as well. I don't know what's wrong with me. There's a lot of things wrong with me. But yeah, so I think we're just going to let this old girl sit there and like self-drain overnight. Cause yeah, I really don't want to get in there and get my hands on that junk. But I'm thinking while we're here, the drive shaft's pretty easy to remove. As you can see, it took 4 bolts to get the back off. I think we're gonna remove the front 4 bolts, which is up there-ish on the transmission, and just drop that whole thing and pull it out, because judging by looking at it, we're probably gonna have to replace whatever, it's like a ball and trunnion or something, U-joint style. I don't even know what the heck that means, but it looks kind of cool. And I'm guessing because all the boots are completely dry rotted off it that it's probably gonna need it. So I think we'll pull that off and call that a day. All right, we're back now. I got the old drive shaft out. Yeah. See, you can, well, might be hard to see, but this little thingy rubber boot there is completely torn and clapped out, and it's not even rubber anymore. This guy's a little bit more limber, but honestly, they probably both need replaced. Now, the key to this is I'll forget, because I'll put this to the side and never remember. So we're gonna make sure we mark this as, oop, figure it out, Seth. That's the rear. And this is the front. There. So now we know the correct way to install this. And honestly, well, I guess you probably could install it the wrong way, because yeah, I think all the bolt holes look like they're the same. I don't know for sure, but the best part is on that transmission, it's hard to get to the back part, like behind the parking brake thing, which if you want to see it, I can show you a little more if anybody's actually interested. But it's 4 bolts on each one of these flanges to get it off. on that one, this is bolts and nuts on the rear. On the front, it's actually studs pressed through like the parking brake drum on the car, so you don't have to get a wrench back there, which would be really hard to anyway. They're just studs, so all you have to do is remove the nuts and you're good. So that makes it really nice. We're gonna set this in an inconspicuous spot for now so it's out of the way. Other than that, I think I'm done for today. The next steps are, I had to order seals from Napa, inner seals for that guy. Don't know when they'll be in, but it said allegedly Tuesday. First step is I gotta get inner seals in that thing. First step is I gotta get inner seals to even start working on this anyway. We can clean up the third member and get that in, but in order to reassemble all this stuff, I gotta do that. What we'll probably do though, when I come out here next, is we'll take some rags, soak them in brake clean or something, and use a long rod and just try to clean out that axle tube as best as we can, because it's not looking good in there. If I put some, you know, I guess diff fluid gear oil in there that has some detergents in it, it'll probably clean some of that up. But then it'll probably drop it to the bottom of the diff and that may cause issues. Maybe not, I don't know. I'm not an expert. I just pretend to act like I know what I'm doing. So we'll probably try to get as much of that goop and sludgy stuff out of there as possible, because that could also impact the bearings and everything, which seem like they're all right. But I don't want to take chances, and I'd much rather do it the right way than find out afterwards, because I don't even know if you can get parts for this rear differential, which, you know, would stink, and I want to give it its best chance at survival. So yeah, probably next steps is we'll do that. We'll focus on getting the pinion seal and the third member, put a new gasket on that third member, make sure it's all cleaned up, nice, ready to go, and slam that in once everything's all cleaned, and then start reassembling all this stuff. I don't know if that's gonna be a new video or not. I think I have a decent amount of time on this memory card that may encompass that. We'll see. If it doesn't happen, I guess we'll see you on the next video. If not, we'll see you shortly. We're back out here in the garage. It's cold today. It's frigid. It's windy. Got the heater going with the gloves warming up on there. So I don't think I'm going to be out here long. But a few things I want to cross off the list today. Where we last left off, maybe you can see it down there. Yeah, you can kind of see it. The differential drained. The third member is out there. I tried to get as much fluid out of the pumpkin as I could. I don't know. There's probably still more in there, but I'm going to try to get that cleaned out today. I'm gonna try to clean all the sludge out of these axle shafts here. I sprayed a little brake parts cleaner in there to kind of let it soak in a little bit. I'm gonna just use some socks and like I think a rebar and just run it through there. Try to bring it out, kind of like cleaning out the barrel of a shotgun or something, or a rifle, just to see if I can get as much of that sludgy stuff out of there. So yeah, we're gonna do that, get the housing cleaned out, and we're gonna try to get this diff all cleaned up. I don't know if I'm gonna put a pinion seal in it today or slam it back into that third member, but we'll see where we get. Yeah, just enough to kind of keep progress going on this old girl. Well, my hands are absolutely frigid. Ooh, that actually burns. It's so warm, going from cold to warm. My hands are actually frigid from spraying brake clean on that third member and getting it cleaned up. As you can see, my hands are also filthy as a result of it. But there's a bunch of the chunks that were left over. I put a sweatshirt in the bottom of an oil pan to kind of catch most of the stuff. Didn't really work super well, but I cleaned this out and then sprayed brake clean. Well, first off, I scraped as much stuff off of the like casing as I could. Some of it got down to the differential. It's fine. It'll grind it all up. It's just sanding. It'll polish the, you know, the ring gear and the pinion real nice. No, I don't think that's what happens. But, yeah, that's looking pretty good. There's still a little bit of sludgy stuff down in the bottom. I have some brake clean sitting in there right now just to kind of hopefully get most of that out. A little bit's not going to matter. But yeah, we're going to let that dry there for a little bit. Like I said, let some brake clean sit in it. As you can see, that was some of the brake clean that was sitting. It's got like gear oily stuff in there, but we can reuse some of that. So we'll let that dry for a little bit. I do have to put a pinion seal on that. Haven't decided if I'm going to do it in the car yet or not, because it's kind of hard to lift that thing up on its other end and like get force or anything on it. So I think what we'll do is we'll get everything cleaned up, all the gasket surfaces, everything, install that, maybe not today, maybe tomorrow, we'll see, and then change the pinion seal in it, because it'll just be a lot easier to do that. But yeah, for now, I'm gonna take, like I said, some, I guess, socks. Yeah, right here you can kind of see I have a sock there. I have one on the other side, and I'm just gonna run those through these axle shafts with a piece of rebar and pull them out that side and just try to get this as clean as possible.
Is it gonna do much? I don't know, but does it make me feel better about it? Yeah. So I'm gonna do that and bring you back in and see what kind of gunk we can get out of here.
All right, well, I didn't film a lot today, but we ended up getting that pumpkin slammed in. She's in there with the light. I just cleaned everything up real good. Threw a new gasket in there. Put grease on the gasket because I've been doing that a lot lately. I think it kind of helps. One, make the gasket not stick when you go to take it off. And two, it just helps kind of keep the gasket in place so you're not fighting that thing moving around. I just put it on both sides. Does it work? I don't know. It makes me feel better about it though. So that's in. I have my inner wheel seals are in at Napa. I did run that sock through here. Maybe you can see in there, probably not. It really didn't do much. There's just a lot of sludgy stuff in there. My hope is that once I get a gear oil in there with a little bit of detergent in it, it'll help kind of soften a lot of that stuff, and then that will just get grinded up in, you know, the diff there, and hopefully not destroy anything. I don't think it will, but we'll see. But so hopefully tomorrow, as long as it's not super freezing in here, we're gonna come in, we're gonna throw a new pinion seal into there. We'll clean off our bearings, all that stuff, put new grease in them, put new inner wheel seals in, slam our axles back in, and put our backing plate stuff all on, and then our new seals for the outer axle shaft seals for the backing plates and all the drum stuff like that. And then most of that'll be ready to be put back together. We're gonna have to get gear oil for that though, so I'm gonna have to remember to do that and not just blow up the rear end the second I take it outside. But yeah, that's basically it. So we'll catch you then. Well, it's the next day out here in the garage. We managed to get new wheel seals from the Napa. As you can see, I've already tried to test fit these. Here's the part number if you need them. I think it's 13797. Sounds about right. Anyways, these replace these guys, which I destroyed getting out. But as you can see, the width of them is slightly different. Now, when you search this Napa replacement seal up on the internet, it says that it has a difference of, you know, width on it. It's like 1/4 inch as opposed to, I think this one's 1/2 inch, which actually isn't a bad thing because it puts that seal, well, maybe it doesn't put that seal surface. No, it doesn't put that seal surface anywhere different. So never mind, I thought that might help it out, but either way, this will work. The bearing rides in its own little area there anyway. It's kind of like a shoulder. Maybe it's hard to see. But so the bearing rides in a whole separate location. So even if there's a little gap between this and where the actual seal should be, it's really no big deal. So I'm gonna clean out those spindles, not spindles, I guess the groove there where that seal sits. And then I'm gonna try to find a tool that I can use to properly start seating it in there. So I'll clean that out. I'll probably grease the outside of this and grease the inside of that little mating surface and hope that it works out. So we'll see what happens. I'll bring you guys back when that happens. Or does it, and we have to stop today because we need to get more seals. All right, well, we're back. I got both those seals installed with minimal damage. I just almost fell. So as you can see, that seal's in there. I said I just put grease around that flange, grease around the seal, and just slowly started working them in. I used this guy. It was slightly larger than the diameter seal surface, and put that on there to just try to seat the seal as straight as I could, and then use this end of this with a hammer and just slowly tapped it in there going around it. As you can see, it kind of damaged the surfaces of it a little bit, but as long as you don't go ham and like completely hammer it and bend the seal, you're fine. As you can see, most people that might work on stuff where you have to insert press fit parts, there's a nice chamfer in there, so that helps get it over that that little hump. Like I said, grease on the outside of the seal, grease on the surface that it's supposed to sit on, and then I actually put a thing of grease around the inner part of the seal just so whenever we install the axle shafts, you know, it doesn't damage it as much as possible. So now we're gonna move on to the axle shafts. As you can see, those bearings have a good bit of scunge on them, I guess you would call it. The races look fine on the outside. The whole axle shaft has really old dirty gear oil on it. I'm gonna try to clean that off and then sand any high spots off just to make it not bad. So it doesn't wreck that seal whenever it goes in there. And then we'll put a little grease on the end of that shaft, or I guess where the axle mates into there, or mates into the, whatever you call it, the center of the differential, the third member, whatever it's called. We'll put a little grease on that just so it, you know, goes in nice and smooth and doesn't bind up. Maybe we even put a little grease all the way up and down the shaft just so it doesn't wreck that seal either. But so yeah, clean up the shafts, grease the ends there, maybe grease part of the shaft, and then clean up the bearings and probably throw some grease in them just because, well, we have a good bit of it. And I don't, like I said, I'm not 100% sure. I think that seal lets past a little bit of gear oil, because then why would you need an outside seal on here? I'm not 100% sure, but we'll grease them regardless. I've done this before, like I think I said this previously on Fords and stuff, and the worst it does is just washes the grease out and it goes in the gear oil. Best thing it does is before you drive the thing, it provides some protection before the gear oil gets up into the axle tubes and makes everything great. So I'll bring it back once I got these cleaned up and we're ready to stab them in. So I got the shaft cleaned up. I actually didn't end up sanding that part. I figured I'd just leave it be, but I got some grease in the splines there. I actually hit where the seal surface rides with some 500 grit just to smooth any rough stuff down there. So that's good. I packed the bearing as best as I could, just kind of pushed some grease in the back and the front and got it all over the rulers. Just greased the race a little bit. There's a little bit of grease right there that I kind of want to get rid of, but I'm going to install the thing first. So yeah, it's almost the same as reversing it, sliding in there. The backing plate is what holds it on. So I'm going to wait to show that once I get them both in. I cleaned this out too, just slapped a little bit of grease around there just to make that all better. We're gonna have to clean this surface off because it's got a little bit of gunk around it. And I'll probably just hit that with a rag and some stuff just to get all the gear oil and stuff off that flange. But yeah, it's looking pretty good. We'll bring it back in. I'm just gonna repeat the same thing on this second axle shaft. All right, so we're back. We got these axle shafts in there. Everything was greased, cleaned off everything. I put a layer of grease on the out of that flange and cleaned them all up so that way everything's good there. Yeah, it's not too bad. The only thing is if you're doing this on one of these old axles, sometimes that race is hard to get in there. So use like a hammer or something and just slowly go around it, kind of like I did with the seal. You can see it juts out a little bit. Well, maybe you can't because of the way this light is, but that's how it's supposed to be. The little shims fit around the outside of that, so it works pretty well. So I think what we're gonna do is, I'm not gonna completely clean up the front of those backing plates yet, because I think I'm gonna do that here once I get the wheel cylinders off and whatnot. But I am gonna clean up the back of them, so I'm gonna pull these shims off here. First off, I'm gonna clean these shims off because they're kind of gungy. But with the backing plate, I'm just gonna come in here and run a wire wheel and get all this heavy gunk off of it on both of them. That way, you know, we don't have to worry about having any major issues there trying to access hardware and stuff. So I'm gonna do that with both of these. Is there another shim back on this? No, there's not. Clean that gungy stuff up from oil that was coming out of there. Just get them both cleaned up in the backing plates and get them thrown on along with the new seals, which are in that box there. I'll show you that process once I get these all cleaned up and ready to go, which shouldn't hopefully take too long. But yeah, I probably could paint that. I guess I could paint that on the car too. But yeah, I don't know. It's not a big deal. There's plenty of time for that. But yeah, so we'll get these cleaned up, or the backs of them, get everything else cleaned up on like the back or on the surface of here, get them stabbed on, and I'll show you that process when it's ready to do it. So we're back. I got all these cleaned up, ready to go. Got this little whole area cleaned up here, ready to go. Like I said, these aren't perfect, but they're good enough for what they're for. So let's start. This is gonna be a POV style video because I didn't do enough of these and I have a little bit of space left over on these cards, or this one card. So here's 2 shims that go on this. I'm guessing they just space out the axle shaft appropriately. I don't know how they figured it out, but there were 2 on there. So I'm gonna put 2 back. So there's one. Maybe I can get some light on this and I'll make it a little better. Maybe, who knows? I'm not a filmmaker. So there's 1 shim, there's 2. So that's properly spaced out. This guy is gonna go like this. Maybe, yeah, there's that. And then next we need this guy. So I like I said, I like to grease up gaskets. As you can see, I just grease up both sides of it. It just makes it not stick as much. All kinds of other good stuff, I guess. And then this guy, I put some grease on the seal as well, just to maybe help make it keep gear oil out and other fun stuff. So we'll put you on there. Maybe. Tolerances are junk. All right. So the one thing I forgot to mention on this is if you look at this, it kind of looks like that seal isn't touching the spindle at all. And it doesn't. I was being dumb and didn't think about that. Apparently it rides on this surface right here. So we'll have to clean that up. It seems pretty grooved right now. That could just be like pent up oil or anything or some stuff on there. If not, I think they make speedy sleeves for it. So we can always get some speedy sleeves on there. Each one of these needs a lock washer. One of these broke, but luckily I had one that was close enough to 9/16. It might have actually been metric in stock. So I just threw that on. Looks like these go this way. Yeah. Yeah, you go that way. Also, if you ever look at nuts, generally they have a way that they're supposed to go on, at least in my opinion. You can see how this surface is a lot more shiny. That's what seated up against the thing for so long, and this was the outside. So sometimes the same with the washers. You can tell there's a specific side that a flat washer has to go in. If you pay close enough attention, it'd be crazy the stuff you figure out or find. All right, so we're just gonna go jam one of these on real quick, like that. Star pattern, I really don't know if it makes a difference, but it works for a lug nut, so we're gonna do it. All right, and then we'll pull that off and then just tighten it down with a ratchet. Hopefully not break anything either. That would stink. Hopefully you guys aren't just seeing the top of the car. I'm trying to do this the right way, but like I said, I have no filmmaking experience of any of the sort. This is just me trying to show you guys how to work on old stuff. So feel free to say, hey Seth, do this or give me any tips, because I really don't know the difference. I just throw a camera on my head and hope it works. And there we go, those are nice and tight. I'm gonna clean off the excess grease on the outside of this, clean off that spindle a little bit. And there we go. So it's not really that difficult. Like I said, we're gonna come back in and clean all of this gunk off of this backing plate at some point. But that's for a later video. But that's installed. So I'm gonna go do the other side and then show you that when I'm done. All right, well, that side's done now. Oh, nice and spick and span. One thing I kind of realized, I didn't really need to grease those little seal surfaces yet, because, well, it doesn't matter, because like I just said in the last clip of, well, it'd be the last clip to me, it would just be a one continuous video for you. That brake drum is what rides on that, so I didn't need to grease it right now, but probably doesn't hurt other than collecting dust. But I was gonna try to fit doing a pinion seal into this video, but the more I thought about it, we're not gonna have anything to use to torque that pinion nut down on once we get it off. The only way we're gonna be able to do that is with a parking brake, which this doesn't have parking brakes on it. Well, on the back, it has one on the transmission. It also, you can't put it in gear because you have to have the drive shaft on for that, and we can't tighten a pinion out with the drive shaft on. The other way I've done it before on old Ford trucks, well, old Ford trucks, whatever, 90s, 80s, whatever, is to get wheels and tires mounted, or put wheels and tires on it, set it down on the weight of it, chalk them, and then use that so it can't move anywhere. Sorry, I thought I heard a dog barking. But so that's what we're gonna do. On the positive note, so that pretty much wraps up this video. We really can't go any further, unfortunately, unless we had more stuff, which we don't. So on the plus side, we are getting tubes. I believe they should come here on... Oh, those are dogs barking. Must be a neighbor's dog. See, I thought I heard something. Sorry, squirrel. We are getting tubes. They should be here, I think, on Monday, which now it's New Year's Eve. So what's that, Wednesday? So they should come on Monday. So the plan is to hopefully get wheels and tires mounted so that we can do that pinion nut. And I'll make a video going on that. And now, since we have a brake cone, I think we're going to start working on getting the wheel cylinders rebuilt and the master cylinder rebuilt. I have brake hoses, and then I have brake lines coming, which I think they should be delivered about the same time the tubes are. So that's probably what the next video is going to encompass, is wheels and tires getting mounted, us putting beads and stuff in them, and then doing brake work. Hopefully getting the brakes completely done to where we can actually pump them up and see if they work. Now, I am going to have to replace shoes on the front, but I'm kind of waiting for that. We can use those shoes just to test out, see how it works, and then throw the other ones on. But yeah, so thanks for joining along this video. Thanks for hanging out with me in the shop. Yeah, big things coming on the horizon. Stay tuned. If you want to, like, comment, subscribe. I think that's what everybody says. Until next time, we'll see you later, and hopefully continue to make progress towards getting this old girl on the road.